Hey contractors, right now, someone in your area is beating you, not because they're better at the trade than you are, but because they know something that you don't. See, right now there's probably a system or maybe even multiple systems in your area that are holding you back from growing, and you're trying to get from here to here, whatever that number is for you, and you're being limited because you either don't know which system is holding you back or you don't know how to solve it. So in this video, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you my framework for exactly how to diagnose and then how to fix exactly what's holding you back. So stick around and we'll dive in. All right, guys, so listen, the truth of the matter is that most people throw money in one spot when the problem is actually somewhere else. So maybe for you, you got a sales process problem. You don't even realize it, and you're trying to cover it up and try to hide it and fix it by throwing more money at marketing, right? Maybe. Or maybe your marketing and sales are perfectly fine, but your crews are not doing the quality job that they need to, or maybe they're doing a good job, they're just not communicating well, and the customers at the end of it's not happy, and they don't leave reviews, and we don't have more customers because we don't have good reviews. So the solution here is to be super objective. We can't out-market a broken sales system, and we can't outsell a broken production system. We have to have things in these areas of our business dialed in. And so what we're going to cover is which of these areas, well, first of all, what are all the areas, and then which ones are the ones that we need to pay attention to and what to look for in each one. And with that said, we have 8 main divisions that pretty much everyone on earth is going to have. Number 1 is marketing. You have to have some kind of marketing that generates visibility and leads. The whole point of marketing, and it doesn't matter what kind, it could be radio, it could be billboards, Facebook, Google Ads, SEO, it doesn't matter what kind of marketing. Marketing's job is to get people's attention, make them see your stuff, and to make them want to have a conversation. That conversation could be a phone call, a web form, whatever. Marketing's job is to create leads. Those leads come in the form of a conversation. Now, then we get to a second step. And that second step we call nurture, but you might call it appointment setting. When someone comes into our business, we're going to have a CRM. Hopefully you have a CRM, and you're going to have some human that is responsible for the conversation as well. Maybe you have an entirely AI type system, or maybe it's all human, or maybe it's part system and part human. But there's something here that takes the conversation, qualifies, and then books an appointment. That's what should happen here, because I don't want to set an appointment for my salespeople to go across town for businesses and opportunities that just don't make sense. So we need to have that mechanism here so that we respond or answer right away, we qualify, and then we set appointments. We call that nurture. The next is sales or in-home consultation, or whatever word you want to put on it. This is where a rep that knows what they're doing, that has an established, repeatable process, goes to a home, follows said process, consults, not pushes, and guides them through an educational consultory process of what it might look like to work together, and what are the options and what are the products. And at the end of it, they hopefully close the deal. That's what sales looks like. Then once that happens, we now move on to production. You'll have an invoice, work order, deposit, whatever, and now we're in production. You might, depending on scale, you might have project managers. You might not. You might just have a crew lead and a crew that goes out and does the job. But something is going to happen here where we're ordering materials and we're scheduling and we're getting people lined up to go into that home or business, and we're going to go do that job. People and materials and processes here need to be high because they just bought something with a promise, and we need to deliver on that promise. Now, after that, we have another division. This is called advocacy. And the advocacy division is something that a lot of people just don't do at all. They don't even know it exists, but it should exist. And that is, in our mind, the idea of taking a happy customer, and if you've done the 4 divisions up to this point, you will have a happy customer. But it's the idea of how do we take one happy customer and turn them into somebody that wants to scream our name from the rooftops. How do we get that customer to give us a review, testimonial, to tell their church friends and their neighbors? How do we get them to buy from us again later on down the road? We call this advocacy. And there's some things that we can do here to create more ROI and better referral rates and all this kind of stuff. Now, those 5 divisions, these are customer facing. So a customer in your business right now sees those 5 areas, and you may label them different, you may break them down differently, but all businesses have those, mine included. And so those have to happen for someone to experience your business. But there are a couple other divisions too. The way that we break the rest of it down is we say the next is like team and HR. We would define that as the process of being able to find and recruit talent, to be able to onboard them, to be able to train them and grow them. A lot of times contractors fail here because they just hire random people and just, here, good luck. We need actual systems here to, get people in the right skill set, the right education to set them up for success. Another division here is legal and risk. So whether you have a lawyer or not, and you probably don't, I don't have a full-time lawyer, but every company has some legal and risk. We probably have like an LLC or a partnership or a corporation. You have to pay the IRS. There's some legal stuff there. You might have to have local, city, maybe even state permits and stuff. That's a legal function. And you should have some sort of like liability insurance. All of these things are legal. You probably have contracts and agreements and stuff. These are all legal functions, right? Now, for the most part, clients don't see that division or even the team and training division, but they're there. And the last division that is above that clients don't necessarily interact with is the finance, the bookkeeping, the payroll, the expense tracking, all of these kinds of things. They're still needed. So what we're left with is 5 divisions: marketing, nurture, sales, production, and advocacy, that clients experience directly. And then 3 divisions: finance, legal, and team. The clients will feel them, but they don't see them directly for the most part. Okay, so now we've defined the 8 core divisions that pretty much every contracting company on earth is going to have. But in this video, we're not going to focus on the 3 that are overhead. That's kind of like a high-level C-suite type function that we might cover in another video. Let's talk about the core 5 that are customer-centric. Sometimes people call this a customer journey. The reason why is because all 5 of those are experienced by the customer. And here's the reality. When you do that well, all 5 of those really, really well, what happens is you'll have the cash flow and the ability and hopefully the profit to be able to start putting more into the leadership and recruiting and finance side of things. But if you don't get those 5 right, then you'll never have it. So another way to think about it is like these 5 are basically the product. We have to market the product and sell the product and do the product and, get reviews and feedback from that product. And then kind of overarching, we have like legal and finance and team and hiring and all those other kind of things. But if we never get the product right, then we never have a chance to get the other part right. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 stages of the customer journey. Now, we just went over all of the definitions, so we're not going to redefine it, but I am going to go into each one of these and talk about things to look for that define right and things to look for that define wrong. With that said, let's jump in. All right, guys, we are in division number 1, marketing. So let's briefly talk about what bad marketing might look like. So here's an analogy for you. Let's say that you are driving home after a long day of work and you're sitting at a traffic light, and over on the right, you see a yard sign. Let's say it's one of those white yard signs that you can get from Home Depot or Lowe's. And on that yard sign, in a big giant marker, there's something like, roofing and a phone number, or maybe home painting and a phone number. And stereotypically, what happens with those yard signs is that you read them and like the letters end up crunching at the end because they're not even evenly spaced. It's like bad, sloppy handwriting. And here's the thing, that person that writes that sign, and if that's you, this is you. But the person that normally writes that sign, they're normally the person that wants to get a higher end client. And in my experience, every time I talk to somebody that does that or something similar, they complain about having cheap clients that penny pinch, and they complain about not having the profit and the growth that they need. But I want you to think about this from the consumer standpoint. I want you to think about this from the customer standpoint. If you own, let's say, a $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million home, just something that's a little bit above average. We're not talking about a $100 million home, just something that's a little bit above average in your area, like the nicer side of town. If you're that person and you have a spouse and maybe a few pets and a few kids and a nice car, maybe you got a little bit of nice artwork on the room, do you want to hire the contractor to go into your home that can't even get a nice sign printed? That DIY one probably costs you like $1 or $2 to do, but a nice one maybe costs you like $5, $10 total if you had a sign shop do it. So if I'm not willing to make myself look good for my customer, what is the likelihood that I'm going to do a good job when I'm in your home? And whether you believe it or not, this is how customers think. So the biggest thing that we see wrong with marketing is one of two things. One, you're just not doing it. And if that's you, I don't care who told you that referrals are enough. They're just not. You need to turn on some kind of marketing. Now, this video is not going to talk about which ones are better. You can follow my channel and look at other videos for that. But you need some marketing. I don't care if it's door knocking, postcards, yard signs. I don't care if it's Google ads, SEO, radio, meta ads. It doesn't matter. Pick one, pick two, turn it on. That's number one problem. Number two is people will do it, but they'll do it really, really cheaply. Like the road sign example that I just gave you. That's an example of ultra cheap marketing, and it will attract the wrong type of client. If you put a cheap yard sign on the side of the road, you're going to get cheap customers. If you build a cheap website with GoDaddy template builder and you just do it yourself in an afternoon, that is going to attract cheap clients. Good clients will look at a company that doesn't look trustworthy and they will leave and find someone that looks better. So to elevate the type of clients that you get, you have to elevate the form and the quality of marketing that you do. That's it. Now, again, I'm not going to get into, the ones and zeros and the really specific stuff here. That will be in for other videos. But the basic thing here is if you are not marketing, or if your marketing looks cheap, that's what you have to fix. You have to spend a little bit more. If you want to make more, you have to spend a little bit more. You have to put a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, hire somebody. It doesn't have to be me. You could do it yourself and just put more time into it. Do it yourself, use AI, hire an agency. I don't care. But if your marketing is here, elevate it. Just elevate it and watch those leads get better and you'll get more of them. All right, next we have nurture. So we define nurture sequence as when the lead comes in until the appointment is qualified and booked. Everything that happens in that. So let's just say it's like a meta lead. It might be like a chat or a form fill. Maybe it's a Google lead and they call you. Maybe you're door knocking and you're face to face. But whatever happens here, there is a conversation initiated. There's a few things that happen here when it's wrong. Number one, ignoring the messages entirely. So one of the biggest things I see when people turn on Google primarily is going to lead to phone calls. If I do SEO or Google ads, I'm going to get a lot of phone calls. That's what's going to happen. If I'm not prepared to answer that phone, I'm going to spend money on a lead. They're going to call me, get a voicemail. They're just going to click back and go to the next contractor in my area. And that's it. Got a quick story for you here. About a year ago, my wife was changing over some laundry, and I was recording kind of like I am right now. And so she didn't bother me with this. She told me about this afterwards. But here's what happened. She was switching over some laundry and put some stuff in the dryer, and the dryer had an error code. It just didn't turn on. And so she calls and she opens up her phone and says, dryer repair near me. Pretty normal search for what people do on Google. Dryer repair near me. First position was a Google ad. Clicked it, called it, got a voicemail. Left the voicemail, clicked back, went to the second, and this process repeated. It took 13 people before someone answered the phone. 13. I'm not exaggerating. 12 people paid to be on Google and did not answer their phone. And finally, the 13th person answered the phone. And guess who we hired? We didn't question their price. We didn't care because no one else would even answer the phone. So sometimes just answering the phone is the bar that you have to do. And here's where most people get it wrong, especially if you're in the like sub $1 million range, you're like 200,000, 500,000, whatever. If you're sub that, probably what you're doing is you're the one out selling. But when you're with the homeowner or you're on a job site and that lead rings, a new lead comes in, you don't answer the phone. You wait and you call them back later. By the time you've called them back, they've already found somebody. So you're spending this precious money on marketing and you're not defending that marketing spend. What I mean by that is if I'm going to spend money on the marketing, I then am like obligated or should be obligated to do whatever it takes to give myself the best chance of closing and setting those appointments, right? Answering the phone is one of those. So the number one problem we see here is not answering the messages. Now, if it's a form or a social message, you don't need to be instant. 5 to 15 minutes is good. Speed to lead is a concept. You've probably heard that word. You need to respond pretty quickly. And if you can get it under 5 minutes, great. But at least within that time frame. If someone sends a form during business, and I'm not talking about 3 a.m. here, guys, for phone or for this. Someone messages at 3 a.m, they're going to be perfectly fine calling them back the next day. But if we're talking about Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or whatever your business hours are, and that phone rings and someone on your team doesn't answer, that's a problem. If someone fills out a form and someone doesn't contact them back within 15 minutes, that's a problem that you need to fix. So problem number 1 is not responding to the lead, not answering the phone. Now, problem number 2 is not using a CRM. So CRM stands for contact relationship management. If you don't have one, you need one. There's a ton of them. And I'm not going to compare those here in this. You just need to find one. There's a lot of trade specific ones. There's one for roofers and painters, remodelers. Find one that's there. The CRM helps track the leads, but also can automate them. So if a form comes in, it can maybe send them a text back, say, hey, we got your form entry. Someone will contact you in a few minutes. That instantaneous response professionalizes you and assures them that someone on your team has their contact and is going to be in touch soon. That might be enough for them to not go to the next contractor. And that example I gave you with my wife going to all the dryer repairs, that didn't happen. None of those 12 had any sort of automatic follow-up. All of them just went to a cell phone voicemail, and that was it. The 13th person had a real company phone process that answered the phone, and it was amazing. And that literally was the only bar. That decision was made because they answered. So we need to answer, and we need to have some CRM that helps us track and auto respond to the leads. And if we do that, nurture is probably going to be great. Now, there is the requirement here when I'm setting the appointments for my sales reps. I do want to make sure that I set them up for success somehow. Normally what that looks like is that you have some criteria for what a good customer and job might look like, right? If you're a painter and someone calls you about a remodel, you might say no, probably. You should. If you're a roofer and someone's talking about foundation repair, clearly, right? So we're going to it's most likely going to look like some form of what type of work qualification. Is it the right type of work? Is it the right size of work that fits what we do? The other thing is going to be location. Is it in the area? I don't necessarily want to drive 4 hours away for a job unless it's giant. We're probably not going to do that. So we need to think about the area. Another consideration might be the timing. Let's say somebody they're like, hey, I want this remodel done and I need it done in a week, but you know it's going to take a month. We would need to shift expectations or walk away because we know that we won't be able to satisfy that need. So, and there could be more, right? And you know your business better than I do, but you need to write down what those qualifications are. And whoever's answering your phone needs to know them. They need to know the yes-no rules and what passes and what doesn't. And that will require some documentation, some training loops, but that is the third system that we see fail the most. So in the nurture, if we just answer the communications quickly, return miscommunications really quickly, and we can have a filtering process before we book an appointment, that alone will set you apart from nearly everyone. All right, guys, let's talk about sales. In my opinion, this is one of the most misunderstood subjects in contracting. Most people, and maybe you, think that this is what sales is like. We get the appointment, whether we make the appointment or someone else on our team does. We go to someone's home, we knock on the door and we let them know that we're there. We say, hey, I'm here to do this. You say, okay. They go back in the house. You go around the property, you take some photos, you take some measurements. You get back in your truck, you drive home, or you drive back to the office. And then at some point later that afternoon, maybe the next day, maybe in a few days, you work up a proposal, probably on like Microsoft Word. You email it over to them, maybe shoot them a text, and then you wait and you wait and you follow up with them. And then you're sitting here looking at your watch and wondering, man, why haven't they closed? I thought everything was great. I thought my numbers were fantastic. And if you hear back, you get beat up on price. You know, I got 5 bids that are under you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is not anything but a broken process. And the reality is when I was growing up in the trades in the 90s, this was the normal way. This was the way everyone did it. And unfortunately, some people just didn't evolve from that. The modern way to do sales is different. Fundamentally, it is a different process. And if you don't change here, you will get beat by somebody who does. So here's what right looks like. First of all, we set up the appointment. The setter should do this just to outline it at the end of the call. This process should probably, for most trades, it varies a little bit trade by trade, but for most people should take 45 to 60 minutes. You're probably used to spending 5, 10, 15 minutes in the home now. That's not the right way. What we want to do is we want to spend more time, and we want to consult and guide and educate not just take pictures, measure, and price. That's the difference, right? And in order to do that, we have to shift how we do it. We break this down into 5 steps, and you can take from this what you want. You can modify this a little bit, but this is what we recommend, and this is how we approach it. The first thing we would do is knock on the door. Hey, this is, Micah with ABC Painting. What I'd like to do, and you just kind of outline what you want to do. So the first step is just the greeting, and in that greeting, you're going to outline the core 4 steps. So it's 5 total steps. 4 of them are big. The first one is just the greeting. So we knock on the door and we have a friendly greeting. Pretty easy. When we frame this, though, we have to frame in that greeting. We have to say, hey, here's what I'd hope to accomplish today. So it might look like boom, boom, boom. Hey, I'm Micah with ABC Painting. It's great to finally meet you. Hey, John. So what I'd like to do, just to make sure that I handle everything on my end, is I'd like to go into the house, sit down at the dining room table or kitchen table or somewhere, and I'd like to talk about the vision for your product. What are you kind of hoping to get out of this? And then after that, we'll walk around the property together, and I'll point some things out, you point things out, and then I'll go back to my truck and I'll work out the numbers. And then after that, I'll come back in and I'll show you everything, all the numbers and options and everything. There won't be any pressure to buy today, John, but I just want to make sure that before I leave, you have all the information to make the right decision for you and your family. Does that sound fair? That's what we want to do in the greeting. Now, all I did there was in a very calm and polite manner outline the things that I want to do when I'm there to guide them through this process, right? And that's the 4 stages. So then we go into the home, and we're going to ask big open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are key here. We're going to sit down with them. We're going to ask, tell me about your vision. What do you hope to accomplish? Big picture things. When they start to tell us when we ask open-ended questions, they start to tell us, they'll tell us things we're not really asking for. They might tell us some things about their lifestyle and their family. And our goal is to try to understand why they want to do the project. Maybe someone wants a paint job because they're about to put it on the MLS and sell the home. That tells you they probably want a cheap job. Maybe someone wants a remodel because their kids just moved out and they want it to be their forever home. They probably want a premium job then. So when we ask open-ended questions, we're going to get life details that just happen. And with that information, we know, it's not being pushy, but we know which product or line or area we can consult and guide and educate them to the right solution based on what they say. And that's what we should be doing. We're educators. We're not telling. That's a wrong way of selling. We're educating. That's the right way to sell. But it starts with these open-ended questions. Now you might also follow up. Have you ever worked with a contractor? How'd that go? There's going to be some follow-up things that you want to do. And we won't have enough time in this video to go through all of that. But we want to ask open-ended questions so that we understand what they actually want. Pretty novel idea, right? Now, once they do that, then I would say, hey, John, let's go walk around the outside of the home, or let's go walk around the bathroom, whatever it is. Let's go walk around and look at this together. And then when we walk around, John, if you could point some things out that you see that are of importance to you, if I see something, I'll point it out to you. Then you're going around and you're actually still having a conversation. And they're going to point things out like, I'd really like this to be like that. I want this over here. This is what I was thinking here. And now we're having a bi-directional constructive conversation instead of just you going and taking photos and not knowing anything. Now, I wouldn't have them walk around and do all the measurements and all the photos, but just have them walk around. If you need to go back through and do more detailed, you can let them go back to the house and you can finish that. Now when we're done with that, we go to the third process. Now we're going to go back to our truck or van or whatever, and we're going to price this thing out. Now here's where most people get this wrong. They think that they need to go back to their shop and they need to work out the price. And I'm here to tell you this. Modern companies don't have to do this, because they put the work in to understand the math. They know how much X square foot of this type of floor or this much wall paint or whatever. They have figured out the math before. And they've created formulas. This is normally called production rates. They have done the math on the labor and the materials and how long it takes them to complete something to say, for every whatever unit of this that a client wants, I have to charge this. And if you do that, and you need to do that, because if you don't, someone else is, and they're going to beat you. If you can do that, you can price in minutes, not hours or days. So not only does this save you time over the long run, it makes you look really professional. Because here's the thing. Go into a supermarket and grab a thing of bananas. Do you have to go to the cash register, say, how much is this? Let me barter, and they go to the back and work out some math for the bananas? No. They have figured out and put there and displayed a price for you. Their pricing of shipping those bananas is far more complicated than you doing your trade, because they've got the growers and the farmers and the shipping and the trains and the boats and all that stuff, the storage, the overhead, all the labor is at the grocery store. They've got a very complicated formula, but they still figured it out. And most likely you haven't. So whatever it takes, we have to spend the time to figure out the math so that we know if someone wants 5 of this, I can just say, here's the unit price times 5, and we're done. That's it. So you have to do this work ahead of time. But once you've done that, all you're doing now is you're going to the truck and entering those numbers and everything, and we're done. Now, if you want to be a little bit more pro, we should have a good, better, best option. There's a lot of psychology that we don't have time to go with this in the video either, but people like to have options, but not too many options. If you throw like, hey, well, we can do whatever you want, that's so much that they never make a choice. If you give them 10, 20, 30 choices, they get overwhelmed and they never make a choice. They're confused. There's an adage here that says a confused buyer never buys. And so what we want to do is we want to give a little flexibility of options, but not so much that it's overwhelming. The magic number here is 3. You can look this up if you like. It's been studied a lot. It's 3 options. If we give a good, better, best, the likelihood is just giving those 3 options will make our close rate go up because we're giving some flexibility. Now, after we're done with all this, we work up the price, we do the thing. Hopefully you have a good, better, best option. We're done with step 3. Now we walk back, knock on the door, and we come back in to present. And I would start off, hey, John, just as a reminder, not here to sell you. I just want to give you all the options so that when I'm leaving, when I leave, you have all of the information to make a best choice for you, right? Now, that's going to be true. I don't think that you should high pressure sale. But typically what happens is when we do this, it lowers sales resistance and the buy rate actually goes up. So it's ironic a little bit, but when we remove the pressure of buying actually increases. So a little psychology trick there. So here's what I would do. Then I would just say, hey, I've got these 3 options based on what you said earlier when at home, and what you pointed out over here and here and here. I think this second option is the best for you. The point here is that you learned a lot in that discovery meeting in the home, and you learned more when you did the walk around, and you learned a lot. You heard things that they wanted about their vision, what mattered to them if you did it right. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take that knowledge and you're going to actually guide and educate them. Hey, I got these 3 tiers of products based on what you said. I think this tier 1 is right, or I think this tier 3 is right, whatever it is, but be genuine and tell them why. Because you said X over here, I think that this is the best option for you. I've got these other 2 options, but because you said A, B, and C, it's actually not the best fit for you. And here's why. And when you do that, listen, if you just do that at all, even if you don't do it perfectly, you are going to beat out so many people, because the reality is no one really does this, right? Or there's very, very few that do. You might only have 1 or 2 contractors in your area that do this, but doing this builds trust and empathy. You're guiding them, not pitching them. You're saying, hey, this is what's right for you because you told me this. It tells them that you're listening. And here's the crazy part. When you do this, chances are you're going to be able to sell at a higher price and your close rate will go up more. That just means that you'll win more jobs for more money. So that's what proper sales should look like. All right, guys, production, here we are. So if you followed me along, you did great marketing, great setting, great closing, and now you've got a client. So here's where a lot of people get it wrong. They're like, I put all this work in here. My guys have got it. Okay, cool. Now, hopefully you do actually have a team that does it, but we have to do things. The system for production requires certain things. So what bad can look like here is, you have an invoice, you have a job order, and then you just kind of hand it off and like, cool, my guys got it. And then they just go do whatever. That's not what really should happen here. If you have bad passover from sales to production, chances are things are going to get missed. All those details that you learn from sales, all those things that matter to them, if they're not translated to the production team and that production team doesn't care about those things and what they want, you might sell at this level and then your crew comes in and delivers at this level. And that is just going to make a regretful or remorseful buyer. We don't want that. That remorseful buyer will be disappointed. And chances are they're going to leave a less than 5-star review, right? Depending on how bad it is, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 1, wherever, it won't be 5 because they're not going to be happy. You sold them this vision of up here and then you delivered here. So when we raise the bar on the marketing and lead nurture and sales, we also have to raise the bar on production. So the big things that go wrong here is lack of handoff. Someone in the sales team can sit down for 5 minutes and tell the production team what's happening and translate their notes. Maybe use an AI recorder to do your sales stuff and your sales meetings, and you can pass those AI transcribed notes over that. There's a lot of different things we could do here, but we need a mechanism somehow, whether it's manual or automated, to get the information from sales over to someone on the production. That's a big thing. Another giant thing is when we start to put them on the schedule, we need reminders. We need a method to easily put them on the schedule and programmatic reminders. There's a dozen and one systems out there these days. And if you've listened to me and you're getting a CRM that's for your niche, that CRM should have the ability to make appointments, not just for sales, but also for the production. And so when the customer books, I should have this appointment system, and that appointment system should remind them of when it's coming up and communicate. You could also do manual outreach. I mean, if you've got a quick turnaround where you're doing the job in a day or two, there's a little bit less. But if you've got a bigger life cycle, a bigger job, maybe you're roofing and it requires permits and you might be weeks out before you do it, you need to touch base. Someone on your team needs to keep that energy high and touch base every week, every couple of days, every month, whatever, some frequency, so that the customer doesn't regret that buying decision or even walk back and get a refund. So we need communication to stay high here, and we need a mechanism to schedule and remind, right? The next big thing that happens is after we've done that, we've passed everything over, got all the right notes, we've done the scheduling and we've the reminders and all that stuff. Now we're actually at the job. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I know your trade. I don't even know what trade you do. And even if I did, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. You've got your unique way. The trade part is yours, but I know how to run a job site. And what most people get wrong is even if they get to hear correctly, now it's just the crews there. And they kind of come and go. They do what they want. I've seen like painters leave materials in garages and not tell the customer, and then the customer gets mad. Or maybe you leave ladders on the side of the house, or maybe you disappear for a while and come back. You're getting supplies, but the customer doesn't know where you went. Here's the point. All the things that you're doing on the job, hopefully you're legitimately good at what you do. And everything that you do is for a reason, right? But if the customer doesn't know that, how did they know? Sometimes something that's really small to you might not be to them. And so we have to communicate. And the easiest way to fix is just every start of the day and every end of the day, or if you have to make an errand and run and go get something or come back, you need to communicate. Or if there's a problem, we need to communicate this proactively. So here's what that might look like. Beginning of the day, check-in, text or verbal conversation. End of the day, check-in, text or verbal conversation. Hey, John, this is what we're going to try to do today, A, B, and C. At the end of the day, hey, John, we tried to get A, B, and C done. We only got A and B done today, but we're already back out tomorrow. We're still not behind. We're just going to wrap up C first thing in the morning. Then we'll still be on track. That level of communication, it doesn't even take a lot, shows that you're a professional, that you care, and you're keeping them in the loop. Remember, they're not confused, right? So when we said a minute ago, a confused buyer never buys, but if someone is confused after the buying process, they might regret buying. So we need to keep clarity high. It doesn't mean you need 10,000 conversations. It means you need short, succinct, impactful conversations at the right moment. The top of the day, end of the day is a very good one. If there's a problem, we need to be forthright. Hey, John, we had this problem, this mistake happened, or we discovered this. This sucks. Here's what we're going to do to fix it. Boom. Right? That proactive approach. It's like, hey, well, that's not ideal, but these guys already have a solution. We're good to go. Right? That keeps that customer experience high. All right. Now, if we do all of that together, chances are we're going to end the job and we're going to have a very, very, very happy customer because you're already good at your trade. And all I want you to do is to keep the communication high. All right, guys, now we are at advocacy. If you follow me this far, we've done marketing, nurture, sales, and production. Now, at this point, the job is done, right? We're at the tail end of the job. We need to do a couple of things in advocacy. Number one is we need to do a really good walkthrough, right? At the end of your job, we need to have a really good walkthrough. And what a lot of people do is they'll just send the customer on their own to do their own walkthrough, right? That's what bad looks like here. They'll just say, we're done. Go let us know if you find anything. No, 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 no. That's not the right way. We want to guide them. We want to talk about it. Make sure you have your guys with this touch-ups or little tweaks or whatever that needs to be done depending on your trade. Have them around so you can fix anything if there's something there. But you need to be walking with them. Now, that might be you as the owner. It might be your crew lead. It might be a project manager. But somebody needs to walk around them and guide them through this process. Here's what we're looking at. Look high, low, left, right, all this stuff. Are you happy with this? This is what this looked at. I'm super proud of that. And we just have a conversation. Maybe it takes 3 minutes. Maybe it takes 30. Doesn't matter. Whatever it takes, you're going to do this. And that process alone reassures them. And again, just like in the production, it keeps the customer super, super happy. Now, after we've done that walkthrough, what most people do at this point, and this is the absolute killer. This is where I see probably of all the things we've talked about, this might be the number one weak link in a production of a contracting company is after they get the walkthrough, they get the final check and like, okay, see you later. And they leave. And then they maybe text or email or use their CRM to send a review link for later. And that's it. That's bad. So here's what good looks like. Advocacy to me is the act of taking a happy customer and finding a way to turn it into other customers and have a lifelong customer from this guy. So here's a few ideas. Now this area is relatively infinite, but I'll give you the top ones. Number one, we want to ask for a review while they're at the job site. And there's a really good reason for this. If I send a link, even if it's 5 minutes later, once I've left, they've mentally checked out. My overall chance of getting that review is somewhere around 10 to 15%. So if I were to throw a dart at 100 clients where they all got a link after I left, chances are I'm only going to have 10 or 15 reviews. And so some of you guys are struggling with that. Like I ask everyone for a review and no one does it. This is why. What we need to do instead is we need to ask for the review right then and there, immediately after the walkthrough. Because people are most likely to leave the review when they're at their happiest, provided that you did a good job and the walkthrough went well, which is why we want to do this. We're setting up for this ask. Because if they're super happy, they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. I'll leave a review. But here's where we need to take it because we still don't want them to do it later because even if they're really excited, they'll still just push it off. So what we can do is say, hey, John, would you mind leaving us a review? I mean, it sounds like everything was really, really great. I'd love to have your feedback. Is that okay? Would you take a couple minutes? And they'll be like, yeah, absolutely. Great. And then now we need a mechanism, right? The easiest way, open up a tab, go to Google and type in tap cards. These little cards, they look like room key cards for a hotel. And you can program them with your review link. You have them. They're cheap as crap. Give one to every single person on your team. So anyone can get a review. But you or someone that's doing this process says, hey, amazing. You got your phone with you? Awesome. Hey, just tap this card. Boom, tap, it opens it up. Okay, listen, while you're doing that review, I'm going to go grab the final paperwork and we'll do the signature and check and then we're good. I'll be back with you in just a second. Now they've just agreed to do the review right then, right there. We asked them at their happiest, had a tap card to make it unbelievably, undeniably easy. And then we go do, because we don't want to shadow them and watch over them. It's awkward. We want to go back to the truck, grab the paperwork, get all the final stuff, and be ready. Now we go back, we give them, if you have signatures or warranty cards or whatever that looks like for you at the end, product details, product sheets, whatever it is you need to do, you end that, you got your review, and now we're good. Okay? So if we do that, here's the crazy part. Asking in person, on average, gets a 50% review ratio. So I want you to think about this. Imagine you do one job per week. I don't know how many you do. Maybe you do 50 jobs a week, but let's just say you do one job a week. At the end of the year, if we get 10% reviews, it's about 5 reviews. But if I do one a week at the end of the job, that's 52 jobs. If I get 50%, it's 26. So if you're getting a 10% review ratio and you get 5 and I'm getting 50% and I get 26, what happens in year 2, in year 3, in year 4? You're growing at this rate and I'm growing at this rate. I'm going to dominate in a year to 3 years, right? And so our best customers, our best clients, our best contractor clients, they're the ones that are getting 50% or over on reviews. Reviews are categorically one of the most important things you could possibly do. It's basically digital gold. And so the more of them that you can get and the higher the star rating, the better you are. It's SEO, it improves ads, it just improves everything. And again, we'll talk about that in another video. I've talked about that in other videos, but we need to get reviews. Now let's talk about the next part of advocacy. How do we get people, after we got the review, how do we get people to tell their friends and neighbors? Well, I could say, hey, John, you mind, sending us to a couple of your friends, or letting a couple of people at the church know what they're going to do? Is I could say, yeah, that's all they're going to do. Yeah, cool. But what I really would want to do is I'd want to find an incentive for them. Maybe it's a $25 gift card. Maybe it's whatever. I don't care. Get creative here. But if we can incentivize this at a rate that's cheaper than our marketing is to get a client, I'm going to incentivize them. And maybe they would have for free anyways, but it's way more likely that they do it if we incentivize it, even just a little bit. Give them something for their time. Doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a gift card, free coffee. I don't care. Get creative, right? But something. Now, the crazy part is, let's say my digital marketing costs are like $500 to get a client. And then I can incentivize this guy maybe $50, and he refers me to someone at their church, and I get another client. My all-in cost is $550 to get 2 clients, but it was $500 to get 1. I just basically cut my marketing budget almost in half. And so we can price this right. If you know your marketing costs, we can price that to where we are incentivizing people to do it, but at a significantly lower rate than our digital marketing would cost for the same thing. Now, will we get free referrals? Yeah. Some people will say, I don't even care, and they'll just give you referrals anyways, and they won't want it. And that's okay. That's great. But some people won't do it unless you incentivize it. And if we incentivize it, we're going to get more from it. And this is one of these things, like almost no contractors do this. And every one of our clients that does it raves about it. They get way more money and an extremely high ROI compared to just investing that same amount of money back into Facebook ads or Google ads. You have a happy customer. They are happy with your work. Incentivize it for them to tell somebody, and they will. And then very likely you'll get more jobs. Number 3 here in advocacy, and again, this isn't everything, this is just the top 3. In advocacy, the third thing I would recommend is find some way to turn them into a lifelong customer. Now, it depends on the trade. Let's say you're a painter and you have an exterior painting service. You paint the outside of the home. You could create a maintenance package where every year they pay a certain amount, you pressure wash the home, and if needed, you come back and do touch-ups after the home is dry. That comes at an extra cost. You'd have to figure out the pricing on all that stuff and obviously make it worth it for both parties. But here's the crazy part. Even if that doesn't make a ton of money, what it does is it gets your branded truck back in that neighborhood every year, year after year after year. That means that the neighbors will see you more often, which means that the referral likelihood goes up. It also means that you go back to that client, John, that I've been using as an example throughout. I get back to him. I get to see him again. Maybe I did the outside paint job of his house this year. I come back next year for a pressure wise, like, hey, by the way, could you guys paint the inside too? Could you do this epoxy floor or whatever it is? They'll tell you about other projects. And provided that you do them, you'll get those opportunities to do more projects. So this is one of my favorite things to do, is to create some form of extended warranty or maintenance program, or maybe it's a warranty and a maintenance program in one, where we can create a service cycle. Then it depends on what you do. I've seen AC companies do this, like with 6-month check-ins. I've seen, cabinet guys come in and like 6 months later, like adjust the hinges because like they kind of settle a little bit after they get in. Maybe the cabinets start closing a little bit different. I don't care what it is. I've not found an industry yet where you cannot do this. Everything can have some sort of touch-up or check-in or maintenance plan of some kind. And what you do, you already had your price and you're already ready to close. At the very end, you can have a packet or piece of paper or something that you can give to the person, say, hey, John, it was great working with you and thanks for the review. Just by the way, I wanted to let you know, as we're wrapping up, we do have this extended warranty program that does X, Y, Z. It costs ABC, whatever. Here's the terms, and you outline, and maybe they take you up on the buy it right there. Or maybe you leave it with them and you give them a window of time. Like if you get this within the next 14 days, it'll still apply, whatever, right? If I go buy like an iPhone, I can go apply Apple Care to it, I think like 90 days after I buy it. They try to pitch it right then and there, but I still have a window. And maybe you do that. Or maybe you require them to buy it then and there. It doesn't really matter. But the point here is that it's one extra thing to give you more at-bats with this client and to slightly increase the revenue and majorly increase the lifetime value. At this point, we've gone through all of these divisions. And here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about all of this. And I want you to sit back and I want you to write down each of these divisions on a whiteboard, a piece of paper, whatever you do. And now I want you to put your objective hat on. I want you to write down 1 to 3 things in each one of these divisions that you're doing good. And I want you to write down 1 to 3 things in each one of these divisions that you're doing bad. And now I want you to think about which one of those, if you fixed, would create the biggest lever in your business. And that's really what this is all about. So if we know what good and bad looks like in each one of these divisions and what professional companies, the ones that are probably beating in your area, are doing, right? If we know that, now we can look back and say, hey, well, this is right and this is right. Ooh, that's not right. I need to do this better. And now what we could do is we can create a prioritized list of what to actually diagnose, right? And so if we figure that out, we'll figure out the things that'll get us from 500 to a million, from 1 million to 2 million, from 2 million to 4 million, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it all starts with understanding what right looks like and then sitting down and objectively, no opinions here. You've got to be real with yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself. What are you doing great? And what are you doing not so great? Or what's horrible? What needs major functions here? What needs major revisions? And we write that down. And then what we do is we put that into a plan so that you're constantly working on the business, not in the business. If you need a little bit more help on this, I've got a free tool. I'm going to put the link in the comments, scaleauditor.com. And what you can do is you can spend it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. You answer a bunch of questions. It guides you through a little quiz on these areas of your business. And when you're done, it uses our guidance and our rubric of how to coach you, and it gives you a free 12-month roadmap. It'll score every division of your business, tell you what you're weak in and what you're not, and it'll also give you a 12-month roadmap of the things that you need to fix in what order so that you get the biggest lever and the biggest outcome. It's a completely free tool, doesn't cost a dime, it takes 5 to 10 minutes of your time, and I love it if you would do that. The link is below. Okay, guys, that's the end of this video. I hope you learned a lot. Follow me for more. Grab that Scale Auditor, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.